and to get some questions answered, that's a great place to do it. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Tonight, we'll talk about coding depression. Seen an up click already in for depression, and I'm thinking that it's directly COVID-19, and I suspect we're going to have some fallout with that. So you may see that in your desks as well. So it's a good time to do a little, let's talk that and the specificity that's needed. Need more, or if you'd like to have your questions answered by somebody at CCO, real easy to do that. All you have to do is find CCO.us/club, and we're right questions as well as do extended products to help you with any needs that you have. Medical documentation. We also have a pathophysiology course, and if you think that might be something you'd like to bring up your knowledge base dealing with this course. So most of you already know, if you have a code that starts with an F, it's going to have something to do with your feeling. I like to think of it farm or was the movie. There was some scary thing that that had a, I don't know, I may not be able to, was on the psych ward or something. Who knows what I'm remembering. Again, F codes use something to do with your feeling. And neural developmental disorders. So we don't want to forget developmental disorders. It encompasses all the codes that, so we have F01, 9. The key, though, when that start with an F, D10, specific, pay attention. There's a lot in the description of these, and so we're going to kind of break them up. Sees if you do risk adjustment now, but a lot of XHC. Now, all of the codes that were F3 codes, and we have F30. Something interesting you noticed here, F mood disorder. As a general rule, most end in a 9 are unspecified, and most codes 8 or have an 8 after are other. That there is but there isn't a specific code diagnosis, so it's considered other. And yet, F39 is not one of them. There are some unspecified codes. Last character is 0 manic episode. You aren't clear on what the term manic is. 1, bipolar disorders. I always get that confused. And some of the diagnoses mingle in with the verbiage. It's easy to get them confused. But the great thing is, worry about that. We're doing the diagnosing. The provider's doing the diagnosing. We're translating it into the proper code. So bipolar or not, if the provider states bipolar, then you know it's going to be an. But we still need to get to higher specificity. So I would say that tonight will probably be really helpful for you. We'll try to clear up some of those. Major depressive disorder episode. Then we also disorder recurrent. Now, F32 and major depressive disorders, the single episode are subdivided, okay? Giving them all under 3.2, they broke it out. The recurrent, their own F33. Persistent mood disorders, F3. So we're going to talk about all the a few others that I think you should be aware of when starting out with the first 0, manic episode. Look down there at that bullet at the very bottom. Let's all sum it up that way. So the /C is it /S means without. With or without. That's the first thing. It without psychotic symptoms. Okay? Now, it's not if we read some patient that sounds like the person's psychotic, it's harder to determine that. And next, we need to find out if it's full remission. States that for us. Now, there's other manic episodes and unspecified. Through every single one of these, I took F301, which is without psychotic symptoms. Extreme, pretty common, I would say. And then it's further divided up in the last character, which is 0, 1, 2, or 3. And here, before, is unspecified instead of a 9. So F30 is a manic episode, psychotic symptoms. Now, all of those are without psychotic symptoms. The 0.11 is mild, and 2 is moderate, and then the point severe. And it's not up to us to determine whether it's mild, to the provider. If the provider doesn't realize if this, then you might see an F3 sent the patient out to a gotten further testing and studies done. And you know what? We don't want to use F0 for very long, right? They may not realize that mild, moderate, and severe. So it's up to us to codes are available so we can get to the highest specificity. And what you might end up doing if provider is to do that, of course, is your query in your office or then check with your compliance office, because there is a right and a wrong way of right and wrong way query at the CCO Club. Hint, hint, right? Now, we can read other documentation. You're looking at a person's chart. It came in with a diagnosis of mild or moderate, and no documentation was there, and then query and give them the options. Eating. The main key to know about manic episodes out the signs is it in remission, and they have partial or full, and wrap it all up with the severity. And we have mild, moderate, and is actually for unspecified, which we don't want to see F0. This is something that the patient has been dealing with, or you're seeing this recurring chart. Again, provider and let them know that there's some options out there for them. Next, let's actually manic depression. again, about too much. All the providers that I work with have this down pat, but don't. The common thing that we see, and now that is help, they do counseling pay for services did a decade ago, a lot more of this documentary. So it's good for you. What's manic depression? Ultimately, you can have episodes. Episodes means, quantities, and then abnormal, elevated, or irritable moods. Now, we're going to have moods ordinary. You could have arousal. It says and or energy a week or longer. So, again, to determine that, maybe they, I don't know. This would be abnormal behavior, a manic episode. Now, could be involved there. The symptoms, feeling grandiosity, with the boat. I know you guys are all screaming at me. They're sitting there, or that one scene where the guy says, I'm the king of. The comment is that he says, be a feeling of grandiose or grandiosity, however you want to. Decreased attention span. Now, these things, in and of themselves, it's different times, or we have normal, but several of the symptoms together, irritability, decreased need for sleep, or pressured speech. That is to, they're speaking really, really fast. What they're talking about isn't organized. It's not that they're but it's just think of attention deficit, and they're just snapping, really snapping, right? Pressured. I did note, and this all came from Fabulous Encoder. If you guys are looking for an encoder to use, really strive I think, and that's why I have a fondness for it. It stated at the bottom of the information that was is that when this happens, they'll go ahead and they, can have psychotic symptoms, because remember, they're breaking up the code, and it was with or without psychosis. So what that would be: delusions, hallucinations, things that aren't there. It goes on to say abnormal thinking or perception. Now, perceptions, messing with the senses, Also, we always wrap it up with, don't forget, we don't want to see unspecified. Again. Also, do not confuse these with symptoms similar. Okay, so other disorders, you have a manic episode and have other disorders have the same signs and symptoms. Diagnoses. Bipolar disorder, didn't it sound symptoms were similar? We're not going to talk about schizophrenia. Again, can have in it, but a patient with the diagnosis, that's another area that is, they talk about that, because that's another whole ball game, as they like to say. Schizophrenia, delusional disorder. So it's not bipolar, but they actually have another disorder called a delusional disorder. There are also spectrums of schizophrenia disorders. So what makes this different is depression. If you have a life and you like to do a little, some more information about health and mental diagnosis descriptions, because F codes will be found in DSM-5. Now, there's another thing to be aware of. If a patient has substance abuse, you're not going to use attention to that, because that might be stimulating a delusion, right? So again, pay attention to those. And we're just following the patient. We're not making assumptions, and let the provider know that there are specificities, but diagnoses, right? We're just translating what's documented. And you'll always have a higher specificity if you're familiar with these diagnoses and language that's commonly used. Wrap it all up with the description that's needed in the description, higher specificities. Disorder. Now, when this first came out, I don't came out, but when people started about it more, about the time that it started getting the insurance company, it's like, oh, he's bipolar, or I'm feeling so bipolar. Again, I kind of self when I hear people talk about that, because you have mood swings, you're feeling down in a bipolar. Bipolar is a diagnosis. The options that are available for a higher specificity bipolar disorders, we have. Now, you'll notice there is a large bipolar disorder descriptions. And 3.1, if you see F3, it's going to be bipolar. Now, initiates the 0.0 the way to 0.9. It takes every single those characters, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The first is hypomanic. Now, I won't go into about what some of these are, because I've got a slide to show you, but again, we can break the word up. Manic means now, because manic depression, right? A low disorder. Notice also 3.1s, these are current. Okay? So we could spend all day breaking one of these. So what I do is take a common one, see commonly, and then that out and show you the options. You can see what we need. So F3.0 is going to give you a hypomanic code. 1 is with features. Again, features would be illusions, hallucinogen. So without psychotic features, that is a pretty common one that you see come. F3.1, same thing. However, whenever they put these in, when you look at an encoder, the shortening the up, and I was trying to save as much space on these slides, whereas I use um, for with and a slash S for without, W, with. So have a severe psychotic features. Okay, so just because it says psych, notice usually what they do is start mild and up. So as the number goes up, more severe. But everything's with these F codes when we compare them to some of the other first character codes. So that's what's really important. Pay attention. You can't really make a and guess. Now, if we're talking diabetes, we've got it. This E11.5 to do with the heart, and so again, we can almost read that code full description, even if it's a longer code, and trust that with these codes. So again, have with side features and it's severe. And then notice that F31E is bipolar disorder, current episode deep, okay, mild. So they've now these are also factors to them, right? First step trying to get to the so we 3-1, then put in our fourth character, keep building on those. So up to or depressed with the bipolar, and then mild or moderate severity. Now, point 4, similar, still have depressed, severe, without psychotic features. 5, we have severe with psychotic features. That whenever they have psychotic features with all codes. Then notice 6 is current episode mixed on here. Bipolar currently in remission, F31.7. So again, doesn't matter what's going on with this other description. Then we have other disorders and bipolar disorder. So what constitutes a bipolar? Just mood swings, but not just your normal mood swings. When I get up in the morning, I'm not sure, but it doesn't take me long moving around, and I'm a very person. I wouldn't say that I'm overly excited, can be, and it's for me to get excited about. And if I'm having a good time, I'm silly, even though I'm probably that way. So if I were to go into a business meeting, I'm not, and really and up high with my mood, you're going to have a calm, appropriate things. So it goes from very happy and active out to depressed, and you can think, like we said, the psychotic emphasis in there as well. So is all right. It's a symptom of having of bipolar disorder. So you've probably heard people say that, it just happened. I was talking with somebody and they said, I don't like to go to funerals because when I get laugh, to me, funerals very tend to laugh inappropriately at things. And so I just don't like to go to funerals. Well, understanding that you do that, that is not bipolar disorder. The way the body deals with stress, and so that's okay. If something can't be again, that's different. Not being able to control down mood swings that would be typical they give us work, school, and relationships. So when and gets evaluated, all kinds of, and they take tests and verbal tests and the psychologist or determine if a person inappropriate behavior or disorder. When they evaluate changes, not just mood. So be really up, high energy, a marathon, and then next you can't get out of bed. Very large mood swings. Um, when we mentioned pressured speech before, that executive speaking rapid manner and difficult to follow. Characters like in movies and stuff, you think, oh, that person, really, and it's kind of a fun, talking real fast to themselves. I got to get another sip of my ginger ale. Hold on. Now, also, bipolar disorder, hospitalization is needed, and want to make sure we get to the highest specificity of those, because for reimbursement for inpatient stays. For bipolar, we know if it's mild, moderate, severe, remission level. And we have to know if the depressed, hypomanic, manic, with or without psychotic last two, or unspecified, that we can use. Want to stay away from it has its purpose until it's identified. To use would be, we don't want to accidentally code somebody as when in fact they only have mild. We want to be very careful with the choose. Bipolar, manic depression. Now we're going to look at major depressive. This is an F32. And these are single episodes. You can go in and you can look and open up to higher specificity there. We look at the F32 depressive disorder way. Single episode, mild, moderate is, it's divided up one. We got 0.0 mild, 0.1 moderate. Then we broke severe up and gave us the option of with psychotic features. Now we're used to seeing that disorders that we've about, and it makes sense that these a lot codes that begin with the character F. Then partial remission and full remission. So we didn't have that with bipolar. They said we had mixed, and that's not here. And so now we have partial remission and full remission between F 3.4 and 0.5. We wrap up with episodes, meaning, but it doesn't meet this description. It's a major depressive disorder. It's in the guidelines of the descriptions that we already have. And then specified. You are used to seeing a 0.9, 2.9 major episode, unspecified. What's unspecified about? Whether it's mild or moderate, full remission, partial remission, and about psychotic features. So a lot of times it's abbreviated as MDD, MDD mild, okay, or MDD psychosis or psychotic features. Or it'll say MDD remission. Helps you familiar with the way that documented. It'll help you. And seeing it, you'll be scrambling in your brain thinking, what in the world is my D? Right? So it stands for disorder. What act the patient is depressed and they're not, it doesn't have necessarily time span, I don't think. Can't say that it does. I've not read it. A person not interested in things that they usual activities do. Maybe a person, is a whatsoever, which would be very rare for them or something. Symptoms can be critical, and the criteria is that utilization with as well, but with you want to make sure symptoms cannot be a medical condition. People that have problems with their thyroid, if they have hypothyroid, they get depressed. Because it's an endocrine. Whenever you're messing with an endocrine the body, it can mess. Depression is very, very common with those. And then that euphoric fever happen when they're hyper. So again, not just hyper. Think of other conditions that can make you feel draggy and tired. It could be glycemia or hypoglycemia, which would both give you a depressive feeling and not want to do what you normally would like to do. So something else, a medical condition, a mental disorder, or again, before substance abuse, then you cannot mix that in with this your depressive disorder. Right? So we don't want to MDD and let that, right? That has for it to qualify for MDD last at least. Now, if you have a medical condition like hyper or anemia or stuff, that would right. But thyroid condition doesn't, and it can take a long those levels regulated, where a person can go 2 weeks or a month feeling off and not understanding why they feel depressed or having strange thoughts and feelings. Then when you put all the other, then the provider thyroid checked and said, oh wow, that's definitely an issue. Maybe this happened in a social situation. What if there is a recent loss of a family member? There is no timeline. People go through stages of grief where you're angry, you're and again, I can't remember. I can't regurgitate those stages. Don't know why that I use that term of my brain regurgitate, but social situation or something, maybe they lost their job. Now, this is where we're from COVID, right? So just because is having temporary feeling of depression, they've never for and they are laid off, they're quarantined,